Good morning and welcome back to the Weaver's Way. Now this is slightly strange because this whole section was supposed to end at Acle, but actually I finished at Thurne, which is only about 5 minutes walk behind me, because the river was flooded, and so much of the river was flooded I couldn't get through at Acle, so we stopped just at Thurne and now continuing on our journey. But it has been many months again. So it was winter when I did that bit, and it is now getting towards the end of summer. I think it's been probably 7 months since I was on the trail, and I've only got, I'd say, I'm gonna make a guess, 20 miles, probably not even that, left of this trail. And I feel a bit bad that it's taken me so long to finally get around to finishing it. But today's section is gonna take me from Thurne to Halvergate, and that leaves me Halvergate through to Great Yarmouth to finish another time, hopefully soon. But that bit is covered in marshes and cows, and I'm going to wait until a little bit later in the year to do that, because I don't like passing through lots and lots of fields of cows. But coming up to a nice little historic treat here of St Edmund Church. This church dates to the 13th century and is grade 2 star listed, and it sits about a 5-minute walk away from the actual village of Thurne. And I don't really know why. The village has grown up around the Staithe, obviously because of trade, but it's a bit unusual to have the church set so far back. I imagine it's to serve other parishes like Oby and Ashby, which are tiny little hamlets that I'm going to pass through quite soon. With the church sitting just up on the hill, there's a wonderful view looking down to the River Thurne, and I can see right on the horizon is Ranworth Church, and then just to the left hand side of this mill you can just make out the cross and the ruins of St Benet's Abbey. And it's a shame the route doesn't really pass that anywhere near there, because it's a really nice ruin set amongst vast open marshes right by the River Thurne. But for Norfolk, that view is not bad. So we're just walking around the farm at Oby, and we heard a really distinctive noise, and that was a crane. And I don't mean a big metal crane, I mean the bird, the common crane, and they're actually swooping around. Did you hear that? There's 5 of them up there, and they're very rare, and they only breed in a few places in the country, and I think that's Lakenheath Fen, here in the Broads, and then also the Somerset Levels. Absolutely wonderful to see. So we're just down on the riverbank, and the mill just over here is called Upton Drainage Mill, or sometimes referred to as Tall Mill, and it's 19th century and grade 2 listed. And just ahead is Wiseman's made drainage mill, and this one is a bit older. It dates to 1753 and is grade 2 star listed, but in far poorer condition, which is a real shame. But along this section here, along the river, there are plenty of mills to see. We're getting quite close to Acle Bridge now, and I think this might be the last mill that we're going to see. This here is Clipsby Mill, and like many of the others along this stretch of river, it dates to the mid-19th century, is grade 2 listed, and stands at 4 stories high with a very iconic upside down boat-shaped cap on the top. So I'm about 100 metres or so now beyond Acle Bridge Inn, which is actually the perfect place to sort of stop and have something to eat or drink. But in this marsh alongside, there actually used to be a priory cell, and if you look at old maps, it shows it being in the middle of these fields. Now there's nothing left today, but what that cell actually represented was an isolated place where one person would live, and they'd come down from the priory up in the centre of Acle and live here completely isolated. And the name of a pub just up the road is called the Hermitage, and I'm guessing it's called that because hermits would live in this cell just in the middle of the marsh. So I'm now coming up to the village of Acle, and this really is kind of the last main settlement before you have to cross the marsh towards Great Yarmouth. So it's really appropriate actually for you to stop overnight here and then continue the walk the next day, as there's still a good sort of 13 miles across the marshes before you actually reach the coast. We're just coming up to the tiny hamlet of Tunstall, and Tunstall actually means farmstead, and it once sat right on the edge of the enormous estuary that would have been this massive marsh over there. But what's really interesting is that's actually the church of St. Peter and St. Paul, and it dates to the medieval period and is given a grade 2 star listing. Now this church was repaired in 1705 and then extended in 1853, and then at some point after that has fell out of use because it now sits as a ruin amongst this dense little copse here. We're just coming into the tiny village of Halvergate, which is where I'm going to end this section of the walk. And we've just come up onto this tiny little hill, and it's a whopping 15 metres above sea level. And for Norfolk, especially the Broads, that's not bad. But what's really, really special about this is that there's nothing to block the view all the way to the coast. I've got a view of Great Yarmouth right over on the horizon, and I can see the wind turbines at Scroby Sands, the big white water tower at Caister, and I can see the Acle Strait. And the remaining part of this walk is actually going to follow, I think it's about 3 or 4 miles of this flat marshland all the way to Breydon Water, and then that is followed along its edge right up to the train station in Great Yarmouth. Another thing that's amazing about this landscape is that all of this low-lying marsh historically used to be a massive tidal estuary, having Great Yarmouth itself almost like on an isolated island.